I have the actual text for the proposed bill. I can clarify some of the questions that were brought up from the last video. In addition, I'm going to point out a major flaw I see in the bill that needs to be fixed. Keep in mind, this is a proposed tax credit. This is a bill.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill.
This is nothing that's been set in stone. I've literally had people email me asking to move order dates or change things around so they can take advantage of this bill. Please don't do anything yet because none of this is actually in place, so there's nothing we can actually do. We know that this is a 30% tax credit.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Meaning that if you buy an electric bike, you can take a tax credit of 30% off the cost. Now, there are a couple of limitations we know about. One is that there is a maximum amount of $1,500. Now, we didn't know things about how many times can you take advantage of this credit. We have answers to that now, which I'll get back to in a moment. The second limitation is the overall price of the bike cannot be more than $8,000. That is the maximum cap, which I think is more than reasonable. With those few things in mind, that leaves a lot of holes and a lot of questions. Some of the questions I had from the previous YouTube video were,
it needs to be expanded to include kits and parts. What about electric scooters? I ride my scooter to work ever since I had got one. Could this apply to me building one myself? What about electronic motorcycles like the one coming soon from Sandoz? Would it be for a bike I bought in 2021? 5 e-bikes later. Lol.
And I think I have answers to most of those questions except for when, but I do have a better guess on when this might go into effect. First, let's jump over to page 2 of 6 to answer the question about how many times can you take advantage of this bill? Could you go buy 5 electric bikes and get 5 tax credits? That probably wouldn't make a lot of sense. Limitation, dollar limitation. In the case of any taxpayer for any taxable year, the credit allowed under subsection A shall not exceed the excess, if any, of A, $1,500, which we already knew. However, clarification is further provided by saying, in parentheses, twice such amount in the case of a joint return, and then reduced by B, the aggregate credits allowed to the taxpayer under subsection A for the 2 preceding taxable years. So it doesn't look like you can take advantage of this year over year over year. You can't be buying a new electric bike every year. It does say for the 2 preceding taxable years, so I would assume that on the 3rd year, then you could again take advantage of the tax credit if this is something that's still in place. But something new here I learned is that you can take twice the $1,500 amount in the case of a joint return. So if a husband and wife want to buy 2 bikes, then they can actually get that $1,500 credit, presumably one for each bike. Now there is a small loophole I see here that if you're filing a joint return but you're only buying one, maybe $6,000 or $7,000 bike, you could, in theory, based on the way I'm reading this. Now, keep in mind, I am not a tax professional. I'm not an attorney. This is not tax advice. This seems to me like you could buy one more expensive bike and take a larger than $1,500 amount if you do file your taxes jointly. So can you go buy 5 electric bikes and take the credit on every one? No, you cannot. The second question, or second and third questions, are can you use these credits on a kit, a conversion kit, or on a used bike? And I think the answer to that is pretty clear in the title and multiple headings. It says credit for certain new electric bicycles.
You have any new ones?
No!
So if you're taking an already existing bicycle and converting it to electric, it's pretty clear to me that that's not going to qualify. It has to be a new electric bicycle. And as well, for a used bike, you can't buy a new bike, apply the tax credit, and then somebody else gets to buy that bike off of you, apply the credit again. It's not going to work that way. It's only going to apply once on the bike when it was new. Third page, this is going to clarify what can this actually be used for? Because people were asking if this could be used on things similar to electric bikes like scooters or electric motorcycles, and the answer to that is a clear no. This is definitely meant for electric bicycles. In fact, there's a lot of detail about what qualifies an electric bicycle, and they use the Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 that we're seeing most states adopt. Now, this also brings me to the one, maybe not fatal, but in my opinion, it's fatal flaw in this bill that I think needs to be corrected. So if you know anyone who has any influence over how this was written and how this can be changed, listen to this and see if you can spot it. Qualified electric bicycle for purposes of this section. In general, the term qualified electric bicycle means a two-wheeled vehicle, which is a Class 1 electric bicycle, a Class 2 electric bicycle, or a Class 3 electric bicycle, and then it goes further into those definitions. Did you spot the flaw?
Larry and Melinda.
Popsicle bike.
No.
It says two-wheeled vehicle. Well, the federal definition of an electric bicycle actually says 2 or 3 wheels. So for some reason, this bill has left out 3-wheeled vehicles.
Belong, Robin.
Or 3-wheeled electric bicycles. And I don't know why, but I think that is a mistake. There is a huge market of electric recumbent bikes or trikes. There are upright electric trikes. In fact, that's what some of those boxes are right behind me, and I don't see any reason why those should be excluded just because they have a third wheel. But it's not just my opinion, it's the fact that currently the federal regulations governing electric bicycles specifically say 2 or 3-wheeled vehicles, so it only makes sense to me that a bill talking about a tax credit for electric bicycles should follow the exact same format, and it does not. I mentioned earlier that I actually have people emailing asking, hey, can I change my order date or things like this so I can take advantage of the tax credit? And at this point, I'm just saying, no, we're not going to change anything. This isn't even a real law.
But today I am still just a bill.
Now, one of the things that has been answered is when can you take advantage of the tax credit in relation to when you bought or received your electric bicycle. And it's very clear here under line 14 on page 5 that the amendments made by this section shall apply to vehicles placed in service after the date of the enactment of this act in taxable years ending after such date. So it says vehicles placed in service. If you pre-ordered a bike in 2020, and let's say you don't actually get the bike until after this bill has passed, then you can use this tax credit because the bike actually wasn't placed in service or received or used until after this became reality. If you received your bike end of 2020, then this is not going to apply because your bike was in service as of 2020. Now, for those that are wondering, is this going to happen this year? Is it going to happen next year? You know, should I wait a few months to buy a bike? I can't answer any of those questions definitively, and I'm going to say I have no idea. I could give it a 50-50 if it's going to pass this year, next year. It may not even pass at all. However, there is a hint, I think, on page 6 as to what the goal for putting this into place might be. That's at the end where it talks about a Treasury report. It says, not later than 3 years after the date of the enactment of this act, the Secretary of the Treasury shall make publicly available a written report specifying the number of taxpayers claiming the credit. So we'll actually know how many people use this tax credit. But towards the very end of this statement, it says such information shall be stated separately for taxable years beginning in 2021 and 2022. It looks like, based on the text of this, because they mention 2021, they do probably have a goal of trying to get this in place this year. Is it going to happen? We really don't know.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
If you want to know more about e-bike laws in the United States and have a better understanding of what Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 electric bicycles are, then make sure to go check out this video where I explain everything in detail.